There you go. This is my wife, Amy. Okay, you're going to see her a lot. She's actually, if you're wondering about any brains behind any of this, it's Amy. I just kind of like, I would say I'm eye candy, but I'm not that either, so I'm not too sure what it is. But Amy and I have been business partners in Royer Neuroscience for a very long time. And she is an RN. Her area of specialty is in nutrition. Yeah, I'm going to knock that down. I got it right there. Boom. Her specialty is in nutrition and hormones. And so we're not talking about that tonight. Maybe that's another lecture, but that's awesome. So we're going to get started. And as people come through, we'll just kind of accommodate them as they come through. I'm going to give you a little background. I am a neuropsychologist, okay? So I look at the brain, I study the brain. Been doing that for about 32 years. I started when I was 8, so no, that wasn't funny, okay? You don't have to give me the sympathy laugh, but yes. So I've been doing it a long time. I've studied close to 70,000 brains, so I've done a lot. I love working on the brain. It's an honor and a privilege to work on the human brain. It's absolutely incredible. The more you see the brain, the more you understand how amazing it is. And anybody that says that they have it all figured out is blowing smoke, okay? It's very expansive, it's very complex, and it's not as simple as putting you in a diagnostic box and giving you a bunch of pills. That's not. The brain is beautiful, okay? And everybody in here, your brain is unique. And our job is to help you understand the uniqueness of your brain and how to make the most out of it, okay? You are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are. And so we want to talk about how that is as we go through this process. Just so you know, a little background. First third of my career, first 10 years, I was a division chief at a pretty large children's hospital in Michigan. Amy and I raised the 4 kids in Michigan for 25 years. They all grew up. We're on our 3rd grandchild as of a couple months ago. And when they grew up and left Michigan, it was time for us to leave Michigan. So we came down here. We've been here for 2 years, and we love it. But while in Michigan, loved the job at the children's hospital, except I started getting concerned through the 90s. This gentleman back here, what's your name again? Yeah. Rick mentioned this rare disorder called ADHD. You probably never heard of it, okay? But you can imagine being at a children's hospital, how often you hear this. And our job was really, for most of the Midwest, for very complex cases involving the brain in children, to try to sort out what the real diagnoses were. After they'd been in the system for a while and things weren't working. And what we started to find out is a lot of times, actually almost 70% of the time, kids were getting misdiagnosed with disorders like ADHD when really they had something else. ADHD is a real thing, but you have to look, you're going to hear me say this over and over again, you have to look at the brain, okay? You can't just look at behaviors. That goes for everything. You have a sleep issue. Has anybody looked at your brain? No. You're just like the last person who came in 15 minutes before with a sleep issue. And you got whatever med was on the shelf. Did anybody stop and take a look at upstream at your brain? And so I started to see this at the children's hospital. People getting misdiagnosed, and the knee-jerk reaction was medicine, medicine, medicine. I'm not opposed to medicine, but it needs to be done in a way that we understand the brain first, and are there other things that we can do to optimize and make your brain stronger? So Amy and I both kind of went on a mission early 2000 to say, how can we help people understand how their brain really works? And that's probably, 25 years later, that brings us to this room right here, is that we want you to know more than anything, 1, that your brain's amazing, and 2, how does it work? If you have an issue, sleep, attention, hormones, focus, you can't make your putts when you're trying to make them, whatever that is, it involves the brain, and let's try to understand the brain and make the most of it. I can tell you this, whatever you think your ceiling is, there's more there. There's way more than you realize. And so we want you to know about that, okay? We're going to go we're going to look at Amy's brain, and we're going to need a little volunteer later to look at your brain, okay? So Amy, Amy right now has an EEG on her head, and that EEG is, okay, so right here, just to get started, as we start to look at the brain, see this bottom line right here? Okay, that is not just a recording of something out there. That's Amy's brain. Okay, so like if she bite down on your... See, look. See right there, she bit down? Okay, relax. See that bottom line there? Okay, so that brain is running 20... Is that cool? Yes. Right, that's her. That's her, right? And inside of there is this tapestry of wonder. Like all kinds of things like creativity and innovation and sleep and focus and maybe stress and obsessiveness and memory issues. Like it's all in there. We just have to like tease it out and look at it, right? And you think of all these things and all these people you know that people are telling them different things about their brain, but has anybody looked at their brain? Like right now, I'm looking at Amy, and I can tell you things about Amy. Like up here, see this thing going up and down at the top, that one right there? That's her level of recovery. So that tells me how well her brain is recovering. And you see that it has peaks and valleys. For somebody who has a sleep problem, that's going to be very, very low all the time, right? And the problem with that, if that stays low all the time, is eventually that's the precursor to memory problems. We can literally pick up memory issues years before somebody has that by looking at the electrical current in the brain. Isn't that cool? Right? And I can go up here and I can say, okay, let's look at the brain waves related to stress. And I can look at her stress brain waves, which are this middle one here. And then we're kind of jumping ahead here, but in her brain, you're going to get quizzed on all of this, so get ready, okay? In her brain, she has about 40 different frequencies at which the brain can run, okay? So do you see this bar at the bottom on this guy right here? And it starts at 1 and it goes up to 45. Those are all the different frequencies or speeds at which her brain can go. And it's that tapestry we saw earlier was an intertwining of all these different frequencies, okay? Now 0 to 12 has everything to do with recovery. So you were given 12 specific brainwaves that help you sleep, they help you rest, they help you store memories, and they help you be creative. Creativity is actually a slow brainwave, 0 to 12. It's called alpha. But those bottom 12 are all the brainwaves that make her recover. If Amy was low there, so they're slow, so they have high amplitudes, because it's like cycling 3 cycles a second, so it's really tall, where these fast ones are cycling 45 cycles a second, so they're very shallow. So the physics of the way a good brain is working is it should go tall on the left in the slow brainwaves and low on the right. Does that make sense? Somebody who's really anxious, this thing would take off at the end. All the fast brainwaves would go up, okay? So then 12 to 20 is like the perfect marathon runner. It's like the perfect focus, calm, creative, innovative, okay? Like when somebody's in the zone, they're between 12 and 20 hertz. And then 20 and higher, well, that's what we use when we get really stressed, okay, or obsessive, or worried, or there's been trauma in our lives that's repeated over times that we tend to have more of those. So when we're looking at Amy's right now, I can see an image of that, okay? And what I encourage you is along the way is to think about, well, what is going on in my brain? Are there some things that I should be looking at, okay? We're going to learn more about that as we go. Let's thank Amy. That was really good, Aim. Come on, thank you, thank you. Okay, very good. Okay, so let's stop that. And
the things you do for your husband.
yes. Okay, let's go ahead and start with this. Okay, I'll shut this. I think we got everybody, right? First of all, I've already been talking a little bit. First of all, I want to thank you for coming, okay? I want to thank you for coming. And I do consider it an honor and a privilege to talk to you about your brain, right? I think it is the most important thing that you possess. Matter of fact, I don't think, I know it is, okay? So you talk to your house guy, about your house and its value and selling it and that kind of stuff, and that guy's important, right? And you talk to your financial guy, right? That's important asset. Maybe you talk to your car guy, right, about the car. I'm the brain guy, okay? And I really think of all the things that you possess, education, whatever that is, that your brain is your greatest asset, right? And you think about it. You work your whole life. You do different things. And what do you really want to have at the end or towards the end? You want that brain to be working really well. You want the body to work well too, but you really want that brain working well, right? And all the other stuff doesn't really mean much at the end if the brain doesn't work. And even as we're accomplishing things, we want it to be the best that it can be. So I did bring a brain tonight, okay? I always have an extra just in case, okay? Keep one in the back of my car, in the trunk, just in case I need one, okay? So this brain right here is about the size of your brain, okay? It's 3.5 pounds. It's really, really amazing, the most amazing thing in the universe. For 3.5 pounds, it consumes 20% of the energy you make, okay? So think about what you ate for dinner or for lunch. That plate or the drive-thru or whatever, 20% of what you ate went to this 3.5 pound organ, okay? We could do the math on that, and that's kind of interesting, right? Think about the rest of what you weigh, and 20% right here, because he's an energy hog. He needs the electrical current. You saw the electrical current in Amy's brain, right? Does that electrical current ever stop? No. It runs from the time she was conceived until the time she dies. It never stops. That's cool. Like, wow. Isn't that wow? Like, it just keeps running. Like, I get, like, my computer, sort of. I can't even get that. I can't even figure that out, right? Then I plug it into that outlet, and it charges in some way, and it has electricity, and it needs electricity from a power plant someplace, and these guys need electricity from a power plant someplace. But did you plug into anything today? No, you didn't. It's crazy. You have been making the same electrical current that's in here all the time, your entire life. You're not even thinking about it. That's like a big wow, right? Isn't that cool? We're making that all the time for this guy to run. And get this, all of you at one point were going through the second trimester in your mother's womb. All of you, everybody in this room, it was just a different year, okay? And during that time, at 20 weeks, you were making 150,000 neurons a minute. Wait a minute. What did he just say? You were making 150,000 neurons a minute.
What stage was that?
That was at 20 weeks. You weren't even born yet. Are you kidding me? What is this thing doing? And then those neurons, now, these neurons in there, they have grown over time. And you have billions upon billions of neurons, and they all have little extensions on them so they can touch other neurons. And these extensions, these connections, there's more more connections in this brain than there are stars in the entire universe as it exists. There's more connections in your brain. On your worst day, you are amazing. Really, you are. It's amazing. And those neurons are firing 1,000 times a second. this is crazy, right? And we just kind of like, oh, whatever. I don't care what fuel I use. I don't care what chemical I'm putting in. You know, who cares about my sleep? No, this guy, he's very important. He's super important. And so out of that, this brain runs other systems in your body that in and of themselves are absolutely incredible. Amy could tell you about what the gut does, and the digestive system is just crazy. There's more neuronal connections in the gut than there are in the brain. It's just crazy, right? But what are some systems that you have, systems in your body? Name me a system. Digestive, okay? This guy is figuring out your digestive system. And every 30 days, your body's making a brand new stomach lining. It's taking the one away and replacing it with a brand new one. And it's figuring out through the digestive system how to manage sugar, how to manage nutrients. You can take whatever you want into you, sort of, and turn it into electricity through the digestive system. That's nuts, right? And it's important what we do put in, not just how we look, but what kind of electricity are you making? Like, I can make electricity from a Big Mac, but I can also make it from well-sourced foods, and the electricity is going to be different. Make sense? Give me another system that we have. Wow, go guys. Woo! Boom, I love it. Okay, circulatory, okay? The blood system, okay? Circulatory system in the brain, if you put it all together, would go around the world twice. Come on, are you fearfully and wonderfully made? You are amazing, right? Even on your worst day, you're amazing. And you can leverage that. Think of what the brain does. It learns. Everything in your life, think of what you've learned. It's just crazy what it can learn. One other system. We said respiratory, oxygen. Okay? We're going to get to that one in a second. I'm going to hold that one in queue. But let's finish with this, okay? So I need the brain. There's so many cool things we could talk about the brain. But let's talk about something that's super important, which is memory, okay? Is we need to remember in order to kind of move forward, right? Think how important memory is to your life, right? Relationships, work, life, just things you do. The retention of memory is so important. And I think probably in the most important arena is in relationships, right? Like if you can't remember these relationships that have brought you joy or sadness or whatever, it's just hard to develop and grow. Memory is so, so important. That's why it's so scary when your memory isn't intact. And I'm all about, people getting their colonoscopies at 50. I'm great about that. But why aren't we getting brains measured at 50? Like, why isn't your doctor saying, hey, let's go take a peek at your brain? Because, yes, I'm concerned about your colonoscopy, and yes, get that. But how about if we have ads about let's get your brain measured?
Your doctor to do that.
Yeah, that's a good question, right? And that's where we have to kind of work and push on the system, right?
So you have to act like something's wrong with your brain.
Yes, and you need to find, and we'll talk more of this, but find the resources to know what it is we're looking for, right? Like, I chose to leave some of those systems because I knew how important it was and how marginalized the brain was getting. And so I needed to look at that differently. But let's finish with this on memory. Okay, so how much memory can the brain do? Okay, so we're doing some video right here. And, have you ever sent like a movie file and how hard it is to send a file? Because it's so heavy duty, there's a lot of memory in it. Well, the number on memory that the brain can do is, think of a continuous video running and continuous video running, storage of memory. You think maybe 3 months, 3 years, 30 years, 100 years, 300 years of continuous video footage is the same amount that your memory retains. I mean, we're talking about volumes of memory storage, that it would take to store that much. And your brain is capable of doing that. And it's just an amazing thing. So we've talked a little bit about, do we all agree it's pretty amazing? Yes. Yeah. So tap the person next to you and say, my brain's amazing. Come on, you can do it. Come on. My brain's amazing, right? My brain's amazing, right? It is, right? It is. That's number one. Okay. So let's talk about how this thing works. Okay, it works off of electricity we talked about, right? We saw it on Amy, right? We saw the electrical current. That was pretty cool, right? And it's running all the time. Question is, where do I get the electricity from? Because we don't plug it in, and I don't have like a battery pack that I plug in and charge. So it's running 24/7. This is a power plant, maybe a coal one, I guess, I don't know. And it's making it, but where am I getting the electrical current? Well, how am I making electrical current all the time? From what? Food. Food right here. Super important. Food is very important, and the kind of food. Okay, we're going to put that on the list. What else besides food? Water. I got water. Somebody said water. Okay, so water and food. What else we got? Oxygen. I got oxygen. Sleep, super important. Sleep is very important. They're all important, but sleep, if I go 7 days without sleep, I will go psychotic. I will not know who I am, where I am, what's going on. That's why sleep deprivation is used as torture in people. And for some people that have sleep problems, it is torture in a sense, right? But without sleep for 7 days continuous, you would go psychotic. By day 13, you would die. There's not very many things that on this planet that's going to kill you in 13 days. And sleep deprivation is huge, and it's very important to the restoration. Do you remember those slow waves that were tall for Amy? Your slow waves almost have to be 6 to 7 times what's going on in the stress brain waves to balance it out. That's why we need to be sleeping a third of our day. That's just crazy to think about, right? But it's so important to memory restoration. But let's take food, water, sleep. They only make up about 10 to 15% of the energy. The person right here, what's your name? Right here, you?
Yes, Jill.
You get the A. You said oxygen. 85% of your brain's energy comes from oxygen. It's free. But you don't realize is many of us, I'd take a bet that almost everybody in this room is not breathing in a way that you're making the most of your oxygen. And it's something to leverage in the brain. Okay? I work with elite athletes. We have we have a brain room at the San Francisco 49ers. We've had it for 8 years. Worked with 13 NFL quarterbacks, all kinds of people in the elite sports. And just like the clinical side of things, it all starts with oxygen. If you could see those players come through, all the different guys that you know, if you follow football from 49ers, come through the brain room. They're putting their breathing belts on. And before we even work on the brain, we're working on getting their breathing perfect because oxygen is so important to the brain. When we're talking about where do we start with everything, it's breathing. And not just like yoga, which is fine, but you have to breathe in a way that you're getting a ton of oxygen. Actually, I brought a little illustration here. This is cool. I found this on Amazon, and I thought, wow, this is, and I was playing with it today. I'm like, Amy, this is really cool. So these are supposed to be your lungs, okay, and there's a little hole here, okay? And then this is, anybody know what this would be with our anatomy? What would? Diaphragm. So most of us breathe with our chest. Most people in the United States breathe about 13, 14 breaths a minute from their chest, and you can compress the chest, and you can move oxygen, but you're not able to open up the airways like you need to. So in each one of these guys, they're a little bit bigger than us, but in each one of these things are called, there's these little hair-like structures called alveoli. Okay, this guy has 300 million alveoli. That one has 300 million alveoli. And together, they cover, when we fill it correctly, the size of a tennis court per breath because of their distribution. Are you cool or what? You are cool, okay? You tell somebody tomorrow, I am cool, okay? 600 million alveoli in these lungs, and they cover the surface of a tennis court per breath. But if I compress with my chest and I'm sloppy with my stomach, I only cover about the surface area of a tennis court. So this guy right here, I brought him today, okay? That's your heart, okay? He's kind of tied into this one here. Not kind of, he is, okay? So whatever this guy's doing, this guy has to make things happen. So if this guy's short on oxygen, what do you think this guy does? He works harder, right? So if I'm all sloppy in my breath, I'm breathing from my chest, shallow, fast, then this guy has to do what? He has to work harder. There's not even anything going on, but he's working harder because I can't get my breath right, okay? But when we use our diaphragm correctly, and this is really cool. It's Amazon, right? So I pull my diaphragm down and see how the lungs open up? Isn't that cool? I don't know how in the world it's doing that. And then I put it up and they collapse, right? And then I pull the diaphragm down and they open up. Now I could compress it this way with my chest, but that's not doing the same thing as engaging my diaphragm. Very few people engage their diaphragm correctly. And that's one of the first things we work on with people is how to engage your diaphragm. We have a whole school of third graders in California where when they come in the morning, they all put their breathing belts on and they pull their iPads up and they all work on their diaphragmatic breathing. What do you think the incidence of ADHD has happened in that group? Learning problems, anxiety, sleep, breathing.
What did you call that?
Diaphragmatic breathing. Yeah, so that's cool. We're going to get to that. Okay, so it all comes from oxygen. Come on, let's rock and roll. Okay, so we're going to go to about 8:15. All good? Okay, so once we have the electrical current, we're making it from oxygen, then the brain sends that to all these different systems, the electrical current, and this is a concept I want you to think about because this is not the concept that you're going to see in the classroom. It's not the you're going to see in at work. And you're also not going to see it in your doctor's office. Okay, a lot of my good friends are physicians. Okay, but they're not thinking this way, and I need you to start thinking this way because I want this room to optimize your brain. Okay, and so most of the time we get stuck on behaviors. I got a behavior, and we go after that behavior. So let's say the behavior is I can't pay attention, okay? That becomes the thing that I answer the checklist on, and now if I give you enough amphetamine, you can pay attention, right? Right? That's a behavior. I can't sleep. I come in just like the last 20 people, but you're not like the last 20 people. There's only one of you. There's only one Mark O'Leary that exists on the planet that will ever exist like him. And if he walks in with a sleep problem, it's unique to his brain. It doesn't mean that everybody needs Ambien, that everybody needs Xanax. Those are behaviors. I'm not opposed to those. But before I decide that for Mark, I want to look upstream. Okay, we got that concept? Brain. The brain drives the body. We just saw some very interactions with the body. What about if Mark is doing this, compressing and not doing this, and this guy is working too hard, and I just say, here, take your Ambien. Right? I haven't solved an issue. I put a Band-Aid on it. It's like going to the car. You got a check engine light and you go to the mechanic. 2 days later, you go pick it up and you're driving out and you're like, well, that looks kind of weird. And then you notice they put duct tape over the light. And you kind of like lean to the side and you look and you say, the light's still on. And you go back to the mechanic and he's really smart out. He goes, can you see the light anymore? Well, no, but it says check the stinking engine, right? Right? When you have a sleep problem, it says, check the engine. When you have an attention problem, it says, check the engine. When you have a hormone problem, check the engine, okay? If you've got a long COVID issue, check the engine, okay? We are really good. I have a daughter who's a biomolecular chemist, okay? We're really good at chemistry in the United States. We are so good at chemistry. I'm not opposed to that, but that's not the fix. That's just an ambulance if you need it. But if you're in the ambulance 5 years later, that's not a good ambulance, okay? So we need to work on that, okay? So be thinking, brain, behaviors, and then in between. So traditional medicine, when we deal with behaviors like anxiety and depression, we have a great book in the back called Tsunami that Amy and I wrote. It's all about the epidemic of anxiety and depression, okay, which is just awful on college campuses all across the United States. It's getting worse and worse, and we were promised in 1990 with the onset of Prozac that depression would be gone in 10 years. Newsweek told us that, and it is not even close. It's gone the other direction, right? And so we need to understand what the thoughts and feelings are. And can I change you chemically with your thoughts and feelings? Can I give you enough Xanax so you're not anxious? I can. But what have I done anything to the brain that actually helped it, right? So we need to fix it, because once I get rid of that chemical, I'm right back to where I started, right? We have to teach it, work it, make it better, okay? So we always got to be upstream. You're going to hear me talking about that, okay? So let's talk about this guy. This is my favorite thing. Okay, well, the brain's my favorite thing, but this is part of the brain, okay? The autonomic nervous system. Let's say it together. Ready? Autonomic nervous system. That was pretty good, but we can do a little bit better. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Autonomic nervous system. Yes, you're going to sound brilliant at work tomorrow, okay? You're going to say, hey, ease off on the workload. You're pushing against my autonomic nervous system. That's going to disrupt the sympathetic response, and it's called an adrenal reaction, which could lead to type 2 diabetes and obesity and cardiovascular disease. I need more balance in my autonomic nervous system, please, okay? You're going to sound brilliant, right? But your autonomic nervous system, you've got to take this away. This guy is really at the core of everything, okay? So what the autonomic nervous system does is you made the electrical current. We made it, right? And it primarily came from oxygen. Good. Mark's got it. Okay, let's try. It primarily came from oxygen. Okay, so we made it, and now we got to manage it. So we got to manage it, because I can't just use it all at once. And I have these ups and downs, right? I have sleep. I have awake, right? I got all these things going on. So I got to have something that, like, manages it for me. And so you've got the coolest software system. You got so many cool things in you, okay? It's just crazy cool. You got this autonomic nervous system, and what it's doing is it's looking at the environment all the time, and what do you think it's using? 5 things it's using to analyze the environment. 5 things that we possess are 5 senses. And those 5 senses give me information that my autonomic nervous system takes in, and it says, okay, let's use a lot of electrical current. Okay? And then it may take them in, and all of a sudden it says, let's use just a little bit of electrical current. Okay? But those 5 senses determine what the autonomic nervous system is going to do. Okay? So I brought a friend of mine, okay? This guy right here, okay? If I was to step outside, I've seen these on hole 3 before out here. No. If I was to step outside and I saw a real version of this out there, I would use my senses, and my autonomic nervous system would go really, really fast, and I would go into sympathetic, which you know is fight, flight, fright. And it would happen instantaneously. You wouldn't barely even be thinking about it. And what will happen is, like if Amy, we were looking at her EEG, all of a sudden the EEG would kick up. You remember when I had her bite down? That was kind of making her use muscles to make electrical. But if it was a lion, you would have seen the same kind of thing, right? And when that happened, everything would light up, and then what would happen is this thing called the hypothalamus would light up, okay? And then that would send an information to something called your pituitary gland, okay? And then your pituitary gland would send a signal down to your adrenal glands. This is happening in milliseconds, right? Lights up like a Christmas tree, hypothalamus, pituitary gland, adrenal gland, and then what happens? What do my adrenal glands do? They release what? Adrenaline. Boom. We know it as cortisol or epinephrine, norepinephrine. We release that down here, but it started with my senses seeing this guy, and it kicked in this whole response, and it pushed out adrenaline, right? And so when that happened, all of a sudden, every cell in your body normally takes in a couple channels of sugar to stay alive. All of a sudden, it takes in 4 to 5 times the amount of sugar that it needs to be able to do the fight, flight, and run from the lion. Why do you think my body wants all that sugar when I see this guy? What do I get from sugar? Energy. Great. And it works for me getting away from this guy, okay? But I shouldn't be using that all the time, should I? That's called the HPA axis. I should not be using that all the time. And in the animal kingdom, like I said, the senses, they use the senses, and that's all they use. So there's a great book written by this neurobiologist, Dr. Sapolsky. This is a wonderful read, not too difficult. It's called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. What does a zebra have to deal with? Lions, real ones, right? But when the chase is over, if he survived, he goes down to the river and he starts drinking and he goes into parasympathetic. He relaxes. And he's down there with his baby zebras and he's not worrying about his 401k. He's not. He's probably not even worried about what he's going to eat the next day. He's not worried about if he can move into a bigger house or what his job is doing or what's going on in a relationship with his wife zebra, right? He's just living. He's present. He's present and he recalibrates. But we don't do that as humans, do we? See, in humans, we have a big frontal lobe that can override our 5 senses, which is good because we can invent things like iPhones and cars and all kinds of stuff. But the bad thing is we think about things in the future and in the past that maybe we shouldn't be thinking about all the time. Does that make sense? Right? I can start thinking, what if this happens? What if? And I can start through with enough what ifs, I can create the exact same HPA axis response as if I saw a real lion just by my thoughts.
So how do you shut that off?
That's a good question. We got to balance the autonomic nervous system. But it's important to know the education of why that started was the body was trying to protect against something, but then it got stuck in this mode, okay? And so with my thoughts, I can do what ifs and be in the future. And I can also do what abouts. What about that happened to me? That unresolved past that's still the present, right? And instead of being present right here with you, being present, I can be like over here. I can be over here in the past and in the future. And I'm not really connected because I'm stuck in the what ifs and the what abouts. Make sense? And in those what ifs and what abouts, I create the same response. So why do we have higher volumes of obesity? It's because of overproduction of cortisol. We're sitting at desks wondering about what ifs. Why do we have more cardiovascular disease? What ifs? What abouts? Why do we have issues with dementia? Same thing, which is being referred to now as type 4 diabetes. And then type 2 diabetes, the number one cause of type 2 diabetes is the overproduction of wanting more sugar, and I can't keep up with the production because I'm stuck in flight. So you got your notes in front of you. You don't have to write this down, but I think a good exercise is, what are a few of your lions? Yikes. Okay. What is 1 or 2 of your lions? You don't have to write it down, but I want you to think about that. And is that really worth the cost? What if? And can I fight against that? Can I work a way to make my system stronger? Okay? Is anybody willing to share one lion with me? Yes, you will. Children. Worrying about children. Yeah, I love the fact that we now have these 3 grandchildren, but now I worry more about, it used to be just worrying about 4 kids. Now they have spouses and it's 8 kids. And now we got these grandkids. Like, are you kidding me? It's worry. Yes, I get it. One more. Work. You're thinking about work. And you're what if. I know. I've been there. I can remember the days where I would just, man, there's 4 kids. We're putting in private school. We're doing this. How am I going to make enough? And I'm just laying there, right? And am I in parasympathetic, in the mode that I need to sleep? I'm in what mode? Sympathetic. Sympathetic is not sympathy like sympathy. It's more of a fast response. Sympathetic is a fast response. The medicine sometimes messes it up. Okay. So let's go ahead. Once I've done that, okay, there's my lion. Every system now responds. Okay? So I worry about the kids and what happens to my heart. Starts going faster. And I need to chill out and go to sleep, but I can't do that because the heart's going faster. What happens to my respiratory system? Shallow, faster. What happens to my adrenal system? Pumps out more adrenaline. Okay, what happens to my immune system? It drops. All of this stuff gets messed up because the brain has gotten involved and gotten the autonomic nervous system out of balance. Make sense? Okay, so let's do this. I've got a little exercise here we're going to do. Okay, you're like, what was that? You didn't know what that was back there, did you? Okay, so I'm going to need somebody to help me. Jake, can you help me? This is my son-in-law, him and my daughter, just gave us our 3rd grandkid. 2nd, Rose, father of Rose. Okay, so you're going to stand over here. Is that okay? And we're going to keep this balanced. And this guy's going to represent my autonomic nervous system. Okay? Okay, so if I put the lion here, and I've got a lot of lions here, what happens to it? Goes down. It's what I call tilt. Instead of being balanced, now I'm tilting. It could be a real lion, but it could also be a made-up emotional lion, right? But my autonomic nervous system doesn't know any better. It just tilts. And when it tilts downstream emotionally, well, first physically, keep her tilted. Physically, it's messing with all these things we talked about, right? Adrenal system, type 2 diabetes, all these things are impacted by this dang lion I'm creating in my head, right? It's messing up my physical system. And it's also messing up my emotional system, right? And it's messing up my behavioral system because I'm in tilt. You see that? I'm in tilt. I'm out of tilt, okay? So what do we typically do in this situation, okay, with tilt? Let's throw one of these guys, okay? We throw a few of these things in here, and maybe that does that, but has it really fixed this? No, it hasn't, because once I take these are external, away, I'm back to tilt again. And underneath the surface, I've got all these issues going on, okay? And what I need to be able to do is, like my friend Mark there, okay, is I need to be able to sleep and be able to balance out the lions, okay? And so we need to create this balance. But unfortunately, our nervous systems, let's take this guy back off. Our nervous systems are stuck in this mode because this position right here, which is our brain and body, is very fragile. This is called, does anybody know what this would be called on this balance beam? What would be the word? Fulcrum. Fulcrum. And there's different, I just found this out from ChatGPT, okay? So don't think I'm not an engineer, okay? But I found this out, that when it tilts a lot, this is called a knife fulcrum. We might know that as a razor's edge, right? You ever feel like your life is on a razor's edge? Like one more thing and I'm going to tilt, right? And it's on a razor's edge. And so any little thing is tilting because my fulcrum, my body and my brain are not in a stable, it's very fragile. It's on an edge. And so tilt happens. Sometimes we can't take this away. Sometimes I cannot take this away because it just happened, right? I have a great video. We do a lot of work at Liberty University with all their student athletes. We have these kiosks. Yeah, go Liberty, go Flames. So they come, and during the day, because we're about trying to fix anxiety and depression on college campuses, and we're at multiple campuses. But they go to this kiosk and they sit down and they breathe. They do the breathing belt, and then we work on their heart, and then we work on their brain. But we're trying to build resilience because we can't take the stress away. I love the athletic director did a video for us, and he says, we're purposely putting these athletes under stress. That's what it means to be an athlete, right? Doesn't it, right? It takes stress to be successful. Stress is not necessarily a bad thing. The problem is balancing the stress, right? And so building resilience affects the fulcrum, okay? And we're coming into these things, and yes, things are going to happen. Yes, I'm going to get grandkids, and we're probably going to get more, and somebody's going to get sick, and this is going to happen. These are going to happen, but if I'm living on a razor's edge, it's going to get me out of tilt, and I'm going to compromise my sleep. But what about if I could do this? What about if I could do that? What happens to my tilt? Makes it very hard to tilt, right? So I've had the opportunity, thanks, Jake. I've had the opportunity and privilege to work with a lot of clinical people, from autistic to sleep problems to all kinds of things, dementia, Parkinson's. But I've also had the opportunity to work with some of the most brilliant people in the world. I've worked with number one in the world in tennis 9 times. This person is so iconic. You all know who this person is, okay? 9 times. Do you know what this person does when they're at Wimbledon? Do you think they tilt in Wimbledon? No, they don't. But they're under pressure. It's a different kind of pressure. They're under pressure. They don't tilt. Well, why does somebody else tilt, but they don't tilt? You can point to somebody that you're like, they got it worse than me, but they're not tilting. Why am I tilting? Because it has to do with the nervous system in your brain and body upstream, not chemicals, and how do you improve that, okay? I'm going to need a volunteer that we're going to, oh, that was quick. And then we're going to do a lobotomy. No. Okay, come on up. What's your name? Kylie, come on up. Amy's going to help you. We're going to look at her breathing and her heart to impact tilt. So, one of the first things that we can do is, what's our number one source for energy? Oxygen. Okay? If I'm not doing this correctly, what happens to the edge? It gets narrow. If I'm not paying attention to it. So we have this great program where 8 minutes a day, you put this belt on, we have you sit down, you breathe, we measure what your heart's doing, and get your breathing perfect so it lines up with your heart. What are we doing? We're widening the razor's edge because we can't control what you're going to experience. I can't control that number one in the world in tennis is going to have a tough match, right? And I've had the opportunity to work with number one in the world in golf 5 times. Same kind of thing. He doesn't tilt, okay? He doesn't tilt because he's working on physiological things. It's not just by chance, but he's working on things. So we're going to look, is it Kylie? Yes. We're going to look at Kylie's breathing in a second and how it relates to her heart. But working on your breathing is very, very important. And I'm not just saying doing yoga. Figuring out how to get that perfect breath that then impacts the heart. Have you ever thought, like, I do work with special forces people as well, okay? Like, how do these guys and ladies, okay, they're literally in battle, right? There's bullets going over their head, and this guy's on a sniper rifle, and his heart is not skipping a beat. His skin temperature is perfect. The electrical current going across his skin is not even fluctuating. The brain waves are staying stable. How in the world is he doing that? He's not just taking a bunch of Xanax, right? He's training his body. We do a ton of work with people with ALS, okay? And it's a very tough disorder. Like we just saw 15 people with ALS last week, okay, down in Antigua. And when I talk to those people about what we're working on, which is the first things are breathing and heart rate, so you guys are in a bigger battle than any soldiers ever had. And I've got to get you the best to be the best. You guys are in your own battles, right? And it doesn't start chemically. It starts with the gift that you've been given of oxygen, okay? And working with your heart. So we're ready to go with Kaylee? Kaylee or Kylie? Kylie, okay. Well, I should get that right, shouldn't I? Let's see. Okay, so Kylie. So this is, we have this app, and I'm going to put her, we're just going to use my name, okay? And while she's working on this, I'm going to explain a couple things to you about breathing, okay? Kylie, thank you for letting us do this, okay? And let's do this guy. Okay. So this is all educational, but we will have an offer at the end if you do want to get assessed on some things. And one of the things we would do is assess this, your breathing and heart rate. So this is an example of that, okay? So we got let me see this guy. Mm-hmm. That's on, boom. Good aim. You got that on there correctly. Nice job. We're only doing a few 100,000 of these, okay? Breathing belt is on, boom, okay? And you don't need the exercises. Okay, so you're just going to sit there for a second, okay? You good? Yeah. You just do whatever you want to. Breathe, okay? So, just breathe. Okay, just breathe. Okay, so she's taking in oxygen. Okay, so right now, what's going on behind the surface is that finger sensor is measuring about 5 to 6 different variables related to her heart. Okay, so your heart works in different speeds, and based on the oxygen flow, it decides how fast it needs to work. Okay, so if it's not getting enough oxygen, does it go in a sympathetic or parasympathetic state? Sympathetic. Okay, if it gets tired, it's sluggish, you're having energy issues, it will go into parasympathetic. But there's a certain spot, and you can look this up when you get home, called coherence. Coherence is the perfect balance of stress and recovery. Did I say we were going to get rid of all stress? No. Even in the heart, you need stress. So the perfect balance of stress and recovery is called coherence. That is initiated by breathing, okay, by breathing. So right now, as we're looking here, the white line is her heart beating up and down, okay? And when we talk about pulse, and I say you have a 65, that's just what the average is. It's really up and down because it's a muscle. Do you guys understand that? That sometimes it might beat 80, and then sometimes it beats 50, and then your average is 65, okay? I'm not interested in your average. I'm interested in all the different variations. I think it's going to catch up here, Aim, okay? I want to point over here to the right, okay? This is measuring coherence on her heart. So the red is the heart going too fast, stress. The blue is fatigue, and the green is perfect balance. So when you look at razor's edge, and you look at, interesting, this thing is called, this fulcrum is, it has a different name. It's a platform fulcrum, but it's not sensitive to the environment. It's very stable, okay? So this, being deeper, has everything to do with the green, okay? The more green in there, the further down and more resilience I have, okay? So we're going to work on something. I want you to do this with me, okay? And everybody else, first, can you uncross your leg and just kind of, okay? Then I want you to put your free hand on your stomach, and we'll all do this. Everybody do this. Hand on the stomach, okay? Good posture. And I want you to work on push your stomach out. Don't even worry about breathing right now. Just push it out, and then pull it back in. That's very attractive, I know. Okay, pull it back in. Okay, so push it out slowly because we're going to activate the diaphragm. Get it out of the way, and then pull it back in. Let's do 2 more of those. Out, slowly, and back in. Okay, now we're going to breathe. So when I inhale, the stomach's going out. So think about biomechanics. So I inhale, stomach out, hold it for a second. Exhale, slowly, okay? Inhale, watch the green bar for her. Stomach out, exhale. Okay, slowly. Do you see the rhythm in the heart starting to happen? Look at the green bar. Okay, inhale, stomach out. Look at the rhythm on our breathing. And you see that the heart is starting to go into a sine wave? You guys see that, the white one? 2 more of them, okay? Okay, we'll stop there. Thank you, Kylie, okay? Let's take that off. And let me just point out a couple things, okay? Okay, so if I could work with Kylie for about another 10, 15 minutes, she would get that green, would take over. So if you watched, so that number is called, great job. Let's give her a round of applause. That was awesome. Okay, so do you see that the heart, the white line, whoa, what just happened? Oh, Bob, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry about it. That's okay. It's okay. We're all good. So what I want you to understand is that green bar is called coherence. Coherence. So let me show you what happens. This is awesome. Okay. When you do coherence, and all you work on is coherence, by moving your diaphragm, getting the heart balanced. This is a study of 14,000 people. So this is not a small study. Over 8 to 9 weeks of all they did was try to improve the green bar. And when you improve the green bar, what happens to the fulcrum? It goes down because I have more resilience in the system. They worked on improving the green bar. Kylie started at about 30. She got as high as 60. I'd want her to be at 90 no matter what's going on, even if bullets are going over her head. Or if somebody wants to sleep at night, what do I want their autonomic nervous system to do? Coherence up. If I'm trying to deal with anxiety, stress, coherence up. Because if that's up, I cannot get in a panic attack. It's impossible, okay? Coherence up, I focus better, okay? This 14,000 people over 9 weeks, these are the numbers that happened. This is not a chemical. This is just breathing, working with your heart, finding the rhythm. And look what happened. This is why we wrote Tsunami, okay, and why we're dealing with anxiety and depression on college campuses, because the answer is not Prozac, okay? It may help as a little ambulance, but we have to teach resilience and lower the fulcrum, and one of the things is through that breathing. 56% decrease in depression in 9 weeks. That's crazy, okay? Sleep. What about next time somebody went in their doctor's office before getting a pill, the doctor said, let's get you on a breathing program and let's see what starts to happen, okay? Come back in 8 weeks, tell me where you're at. Well, I'm going to tell you they're going to be about 40% better in their breathing, okay? And so we want to try to work on that. Okay, let's do one other volunteer. Let me see how I'm doing here. I've got just enough time to do one more. Amy's like, you're pushing it. You're pushing it. Can we look at one person's brain? Is that okay? Yes, we can? Okay, you guys okay if we look at one person's brain? Okay, so I need a volunteer. Okay, come on up. You can come on up. Yep, you can sit right here. Amy's going to hook your brain up, okay? So we're going to look at, what's your name? Sydney? Cindy. Okay, Cindy. So not only do we first, are you guys tracking with me on what I'm trying to do here with the fulcrum? Okay? Is I'm working on not chemically altering this, but building resilience. You are amazing. And you can leverage these things inside of you. Okay, you need the technology to show you how to do it, how to work on your breath, how to work on your heart, how to see those things, okay? So we're now going to look at the brain, and we're going to put this on here because this is the last thing that I would do to build the fulcrum, is work on the brain. So let's talk about these brain waves one more time. 1 second. Let's go to here, and boom. Okay. So let's see if you remember, how many brain waves do I have that allow me to rest? 12. And now you know what those would be called, sympathetic or parasympathetic brain waves. Those would be parasympathetic. That's kind of interesting. The blue color that you saw on Kylie's heart was the parasympathetic response in her heart. Brain waves over 20 are fast brain waves, so therefore they would be called sympathetic. In the heart, man, it seems like somebody kind of made it this way, okay? The heart, the red was sympathetic on her heart, but we also see it upstream in the brain. Does that make sense? So with Cindy, we're going to look at her brain, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. And you're doing good. Okay. Okay, here we go. Almost there. You guys have been such a great group. Fantastic. You're making it easy, okay? I think we got a brain here, Cindy. I think.
Some days I wonder.
Yeah, same here, right? I wonder too. Okay, here we go. Okay, just stay nice and relaxed. Okay, so these brain waves right here are right there, that one going up, 1 to 8 hertz. 1 to 8 hertz. Would they be parasympathetic or sympathetic? They're 1 to 8. Look how much you've learned, right? Most doctors' offices aren't going to know what the heck you're talking about, okay? And that's okay. My son's a physician, okay? They're just not trained in this stuff, and they're trained in other methods, okay? But 1 to 8 hertz is her slow brainwaves. What do you notice about her slow brainwaves? They go up and down, right? I want more of her slow brainwaves. And I want you to notice something. What do you notice? You can't see this yet, okay? Do you see this video? Do you guys see that video? Not really. Okay, what did you notice that just happened to the video? It blank, okay? Now watch. Stay nice and relaxed. Close your eyes for a second, Cindy. Just relax. Wait to see that bar up there that's below there. She just got a pink. Let me make it a little easier on you, okay? Her brain is driving this right now. See, it got brighter? Did you guys see that? Okay. Yeah, did you see it get bright? It's dimming. Her brain is doing that. Okay, so her brain is driving the video. So I can change, if I want to improve that brainwave right there, I can change this threshold that every time she goes up, if I want her to sleep better, is make more of the brainwaves related to sleep by adjusting that bar. And she can watch this video, and that video is going to go on and off and show her when her brain is where it needs to be.
You're adjusting the bar to make that.
See this pink bar?
Yeah.
Yep. I have it set at 50%, but I could make it really hard on her, or I could make it very easy.
You're controlling that.
Yes, over there. But all that to say is that your brain waves are going up and down. They're in there, and so for the person who has a sleep problem, person who has a fog problem, the person who has an anxiety problem, the person who has whatever issue, attention, it's a brain wave that's out of balance. And we need to bring it back into balance, okay? So as we finish up, let's look at the slope here, okay? So does anybody notice anything a little bit different about this slope than Amy's slope?
It's going down quicker.
Good job, John, okay? And that's okay, Cindy. We're just looking at your brain. Okay. So John noticed this. Do you see? You're fine. I'll show it to you later. See how it comes down and then it goes back up again a little bit? We call that sag. Okay. That's a little bit related to sleep, okay? And so I want that to get filled in over time. I don't want to chemically alter that, but I want to teach the brain to do that, okay? And then the last thing is these brain waves related to stress. She's doing very good, the second one. So right now the stress is low. See how it went low? And then it just popped up a little bit, okay? So somebody who's got a sympathetic problem, they're having a lot of those spikes, okay? And we don't want to just chemically push those down. We want to teach the brain how to do that over time, okay? And we don't need to get into explaining how we do that, but ultimately what I want you to understand is that it's very important, more so than understanding about teaching the brain how to switch these things, is first assessing what's going on. That's what we're about tonight, is figuring out like what's out of balance, okay? What's off in these different things? What's going on with my breathing? Is my brain on a razor's edge, or do I have a wider resilience? Make sense? Okay. Let's thank Cindy. There's her EEG right down there, which is pretty cool. That's been running her entire life. I won't ask you how many years it's been running, but it's been running her entire life. Isn't that awesome? Let's thank Cindy for coming up, okay? Okay, let's finish up. I'd like to take a couple questions and then we'll be done. Is that okay? It's 8:09. I said we'd go to 8:15.
Question.
Yes?
Did I understand you to say that dementia is a result of more sugar?
There is a component of activating the HPA axis that causes the brain to get stuck in the sympathetic state and not recover like it needs to. So some people are talking about what is referred to as, instead of type 2 diabetes, type 4, because it's in a stress state. But sugar can impact that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, John, did you have a question?
How do you train your brain?
Well, it's a long, it's a lot, but that's the next lecture. That's the next lecture, and we can talk about that more. But let me explain just briefly this, okay? I want you guys to think about this because everybody in this room has done this, okay? Do you remember when you first drove a car? Remember first drove a car? The poor person that sat in the car with you? How awful that was. Do you remember that? And over time, though, you learned to drive the car. And how did you learn to drive the car? You needed something to teach you how to drive a certain speed. And what was that you needed? A speedometer. Our cops. Yeah. Right? And the cop tells you went this fast, and you know that's too fast. But you learned through a feedback loop. Right? Now, without getting into big detail, which we can talk more about this later if I meet with you, is we need to create a feedback loop for your brain so that it can see when it's going, what speed it's going, okay? So now you've interfaced with a speedometer so long, okay, that you can be driving down the road and not even think about it. And I can say, how fast are you going? Don't look at the speedometer. And you can say 60 miles an hour, okay? The problem you have with your brain is you don't know how fast you're going. You don't know how slow you're going, right? We need to create a speedometer for you and then create a system that whenever the brain is in the right speed, you get rewarded for that. When it's going too fast or too slow, you get an indication that you're going too fast or too slow. Before getting deep into that, the best place to think about is first, how do I work on my oxygen and my heart? That's stage one. That's where we all want to be working. Those third graders in that classroom, the person who can't sleep, the person dealing with anxiety, attention, first work on the oxygen flow and lower the fulcrum. Okay? Other question, yes?
Yeah, so it sounds like you're saying out of the ways that we can optimize our brain for free, so to speak, breathing is kind of the number one tool to start with. So building on that, like, do you have a number one go-to like breathing method or breathing practice or something that we could start out with?
Yeah, so the
breathing right?
number one is to work on that pace that we talked about, okay? So breathe in at 4 seconds, hold for a second, and then breathe out 5 seconds and hold for a second, okay? So
Stomach out and stomach in.
yes, always moving the stomach in and out. And we have a great program where you can rent one of these belts, and through the app, you can work 3.5 minutes sitting every day and then 3.5 minutes standing, because you don't live your life sitting, breathing. And then what's really cool, get this, once I get the biomechanics down, once I get Kylie with the belt, okay, and we get the consistency right and she's making me a lot of green, then I tell Kylie, okay, you can't look at the screen anymore, but pick anything you want to listen to. Spotify or watch something, whatever you want to watch. But the music will only play when you're breathing correctly. Is that cool? Right? And the moment she's listening, she's jamming to her tunes, boom, 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 and all of a sudden they stop. What happened to the rate and consistency of her breathing? It was off. And she's like, oh, shoot. She starts getting back on track. What do you think happens to the music? Back on again. Now, what are we doing? Yes, she's learning that, but what am I doing to the fulcrum? I'm getting it down, because she's now learning something that she wasn't aware of is now becoming into awareness. And just like driving that car at the right speed, she's now learning that. And I can go at 5 minutes. Well, why don't you watch something for 30 minutes? You pick something on Netflix you want to watch. But it will only play when you're breathing correctly, because the breathing is important to the autonomic nervous system, which is important to downstream emotions and behaviors. I don't just go cover those up. I go up and fix it. Very cool app. We call that our core app, just working on that, which is really cool. Okay? 2 more questions. Yes? Her. What was your question?
Yeah, for the sake of brevity, I just very quickly been through major, unusual trauma prolonged.
Yep.
The last 20 years. Different, consistent, really.
Yeah.
One day my body just shut down.
Yep.
And put me in bed for 3 days.
Yep.
I was not sick, but I could not get out of bed. I couldn't even make it to my kitchen. Now I have that pattern in my life where I will go and I will deal with all this, but there comes a moment where my body will just shut down on me. And I have to go to bed. I can't. And it's a horrible feeling, because you feel like you're lazy.
Absolutely.
You feel like you're sickly. You feel like, I want to know what's going on.
Yes. So a deeper evaluation would help with that.
Yeah.
But and this is very, very difficult. Your nervous system did something good for you, which was try to protect you through those trauma situations. Just like the guy in the foxhole, his nervous system becomes or lady in the foxhole, it becomes super alert to everything. And it goes into sympathetic to protect. And then all of a sudden, there's no more foxhole, right? But what's the nervous system doing? It's still stuck in tilt, right? So we got to rebuild that nervous system and say, let's start with the basics. Let's get the breathing. Let's get the sleep. Let's get the brain. Let's get the hormones. Let's get everything where it should be to unprogram what was a normal response to an abnormal situation that nobody should have to go through, right? And so that's not like chemically altering doing, it's working with your body and brain is still the most amazing thing that exists on the planet. And it's leveraging that.
Isn't it true that when you go through prolonged trauma, that it creates a deficit in your immunity system, your immune system?
Absolutely.
It can kill you. I mean, my first husband died.
Yeah.
And they could not find out what was wrong with him. Very healthy. But we went to the best, Duke, and then to Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. They've been through so many tests. He was completely healthy. But something in his brain he had gone through 4 years of severe trauma.
Yeah.
That it causes white blood cells to come out and attack. It had nothing to attack. So it started attacking his peripheral nervous system. And and the neurologist at Duke said it shouldn't skip to the central, but it did.
Yeah.
So
Let's
they never had a reason or closure what killed him.
mhm. Let's talk a little bit more afterwards. But you're pointing out exactly the furthest extreme that this goes. This is a normal nervous system response when it gets in tilt. And right now, many of us might be here, but what you're talking about is what happens when it gets in here. Let's take that. Go ahead.
And I'm surprised that I haven't died.
Yeah, exactly.
Same stress.
Which means you must be very resilient. So let's,
I feel like it.
yeah. Let's finish with this. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking, so many, I think almost everything you talked about goes back to anxiety. Because even with like waking up in the middle of the night, you're like, I gotta go back to sleep, I gotta go back to sleep. I mean, so much of it is that it works its way back to anxiety, which I think causes depression when you start trying to treat
Yes.
it with alcohol or drugs or whatever medication. But I was thinking about, what about, and I know what she's talking about, inner influences, but I was thinking about like outer influences like heavy metals, Wi-Fi, LED lights. I mean, there's a big difference between LED lights and incandescent lighting, which we can't even buy more. 5G, frequency from 5Gs. So, two-part question. Are you able to address like those outer circumstances, and does listening to like 480 megahertz or 400, because I've heard a lot about quantum frequency
Yeah.
healing, or quantum healing. Will that address, are you able to address outside influences? I guess what I'm getting to.
Yeah.
And for a quick fix, are we able to tune into a frequency on our phone, which I often do?
Yeah,
Does that work?
so the thing that you always want to be looking at is you want to look upstream. You want to look at what is the brain doing in relation to maybe positive, like binaural beats that you're talking about, or what's it responding to negatively, something like EMFs or those kind of things. But you always have to look at the brain. And even when you start some type of medicine, you need to be looking at the brain and seeing how it's impacting. And that's what we want to try to help with. So let's finish with this. First of all, I really had a good time. I hope you guys had fun. That was really good, okay? And we want to get you guys all your book. So everybody gets a book. Einstein, which is about ADHD, is actually back ordered right now. So we have one of two books that you can choose. We have the one about the tsunami, which is about anxiety and depression. Talks a lot about breathing and heart rate. We have Einstein's going to be, if you really want Einstein, which is going to be here in a couple weeks because it got back ordered. This is all about ADHD and misdiagnosis of ADHD. This one, Forge Your Inner Armor, is fantastic. It's all about the basics of how do we work on building this resilience in the system. So we have both of these in the back for when we're done, and you can choose one of the two for free, okay? If you want to buy another one, you can buy them. They're usually 10. You can buy them for $5 if you want an extra one, okay? Then I would love to meet with you guys. Anybody that would like to get your brain assessed, you'd like to get your breathing assessed, you'd like to get your heart assessed, and then after I have all that data, us meet for 45 minutes to talk about everything that I'm seeing in your brain, body, heart. What are some things that we can do to build resilience, and maybe even talk through some of these different things that you want to talk more in detail, okay? So the way that we do that, okay, is we normally, assessments which cover all those things are typically around $500, okay? And that's meeting with me too and everything. If you came to the lecture, which you did, they're $250, okay? So for $250, I'm going to measure all three areas of your brain, look at every frequency in there. We're going to measure what your heart's doing. We're going to measure what your breathing's doing. And then I'm also going to have you go through a survey of some different things about your autonomic nervous system, right? So that I can see where you fall compared to thousands of people. So I can try to ascertain what's going upstream for you, whether that's something that you just want to be better at or something that you're struggling with, okay? So the way that we're going to do this is I have these cards up here, okay? So these cards right here are for next Tuesday, okay? So Tuesday from 1 to 6 back here at Verdict Ridge, back here, 1 to 6, I'll be seeing people. If you want to come in and be seen, you just pick a slot, and we see you during that slot, okay, 1 to 6. Then this side over here is Saturday. This Saturday, 9 to 2, okay? So you just pick a card. You'll see different times on there. And we collect all the data at that point because I need to get this stuff on you, collect it, and then I meet with you on a Zoom call to go over all the results. So this is kind of like the labs. I can get my labs, and then you go your way, and we connect on a Zoom, and I meet with you for 45 minutes to walk through everything about your brain and body, okay? $250 if you have a family member that's not here that you want assessed, you can apply the same discount to them, okay? One last thing. If those times don't work for you, try to make them work. But if you can't make them work, let us know. Everything we do is in the home. We do all of our training, all of our work goes to your home, and you use the equipment in your home. So we can send the equipment to your home and assess you there via Zoom. If you cannot make those, that's not our preference because it just makes it very complicated sending out a couple $1,000s worth of equipment to all your places. So if you can help me out by doing that.
How long does it take to do that?
This, to get the labs, take about 30 to 45 minutes.
That's it.
Yeah. So it's not that, it doesn't take a lot of time. So you can probably be in and out in 30, but we're going to spend a lot of time on the phone. That's where it's like, okay, I've seen your brain, I've got your heart, I've got your breathing, I've got your autonomic nervous system. Now let's talk about upstream. What's it going to take to get downstream looking better? Make sense? Cool? There's still cookies in the back, water in the back. I'm going to be in the back with your books. So don't leave without your getting books. Jake and Amy are going to come up front, and they're going to help over here with the sign up here, okay? Does that make sense on what I was saying on the sign up? Yes, Alicia.
Okay, I'm not trying to hijack, but I'm not a plant. I hardly know him, but I met him by happenstance, and he helped my son. I could cry, and he said, as we left today, I said, I'm going to see Dr. Royer. He said, tell him I feel so much better. He's 18. I can tell you if you want to know. I'll tell you what it is. I'll be very candid, but brilliant. Thank you.
Well, thank you for saying that, Alicia.
Not even barely into it. And
Yes.
He's already feeling really
Yeah.
better.
Awesome. Hey, guys, great job. Thanks for coming, okay? I'll be in the back with your free book, okay?